Yay, there we go. We are live. Are we live, Naomi? Oh, Naomi's not even checking. She's working, yeah. Yes, we are live. Good afternoon, happy Tuesday. Hope it's wherever you are, I hope it's nice. It's really windy here. It's rainy. It's not nice. My flowers are coming out nice in my garden because it's raining so much, but it's flipping awful. But fingers crossed, it should be getting towards the end of the week and next week. It should be really nice, shouldn't it? And we should see with this fantastic heat wave that we're supposed to be having. So I can't wait. Hope you're all well and you're having a good week. Hopefully it started okay and you're all relatively busy, keeping busy. I think kids are off. I think some kids are off this week, actually. Someone was telling me this morning, maybe this morning or yesterday, that the kids are off already. Oh, someone at cheerleading last night said the kids are off already. But I don't think yours are off yet, are they, Helen? Not till next week.
No, mine, I've got a week off next week and then, but Jane's lot, I've got 2 weeks starting next week. So they're all a bit different, aren't they?
It's weird, isn't it? Because Naomi's got Theo's off, so they both break up on Friday. Then Theo's off for 2 weeks, but Maya's only off for a week.
Oh, that's helpful.
I know. I know, crazy. But never mind. Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Helen, today. Unfortunately, Jane can't be with us today, prior engagement, but she's there in spirit, I'm sure. And I'm sure you've had a big debrief and a conversation about what you're going to talk about. So before we get into the conference stuff and what you're going to be helping us out at the conference with, probably for those people in the group that don't know who you are, God forbid, but people that don't know who you are, probably an idea. Give us a little bit, because obviously we've had really nothing leading up to the conference about you, because unfortunately Wendy Kendall, who was going to be joining us and who was on the live last year, has moved to sunnier climes and is now in France and living a lovely life over there, but is obviously not able to get back because of restrictions and stupid COVID. But we are super delighted, and our first option really was you ladies, to see if you would join us. And you're really, really privileged, because apart from me, we've never had a VA in 5 years that's spoken. So, and I've always been a little bit guarded and thought, no, we don't need any other VA speaking and talking about anything else. But no, you would definitely be my first choice. And you know that I love watching your all of your Instagram and your Facebook and everything else, because I think you always look dead happy, and you always look like you're living your best life and living your best business. And I'm like, God, I wish my business was like your business. So I suppose, really, do you want to do a bit of an introduction, Helen, and tell us a bit about yourselves, how long you've been trading for, a bit of your relationship with Jane, and maybe what you've been doing over the last year, how it's affected you and what difference it's had on your business.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So as you'd hinted, I'm one half of Queen Bee, and Jane is the other half. And Jane has childcare things on today, so she's had to dash off. But yeah, I suppose Jane and I have been best friends since we were little. So we grew up together. We had sleepovers. We used to like in her bedroom talk about how one day we'd set up a business. We'd talk about things that we might be able to do. This whole thing never obviously came up, but so it was always something we kind of talked about doing right from being little. And then our paths kind of aligned, really, I suppose. We went to the same university. No, in fact, I don't think our parents really know which one's which, because we've been so like in each other's pockets for so long. And then Jane kind of went down the route of advertising. So she worked in lots of big advertising agencies, and I took the marketing route. I started off in a bit of PR and then moved into marketing. So kind of a little bit similar in that kind of creative environment. And then we both had kids, and it just felt like the right time. So it was about 7 years ago, and we were just talking about, she was doing long hours in the ad agencies and dashing back to try and pick up the kids, and it was all a lot of pressure there. And I'd gone back part-time, which was great, but I'd been working at the council in their marketing department for like 12 years. I think I was just ready for a change. My son had started school. So it just kind of all was a bit of a perfect storm, really. And yeah, so just the whole VA thing, I think, I mean, I know it existed back then, but it was still fairly new. Now I just feel like, there's so many VAs, or we're connected with so many VAs all over the world. But, we wanted to use that kind of advertising and marketing experience we had. So we wanted to kind of take it down quite a creative route. So like, I know you were saying with Kate, it's like, what does a VA do? I mean, it just could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah.
It encompasses such a large, diverse number of services. What one VA does will be totally different to another VA. We've all kind of got our strengths, haven't we? So we're very much focused in on the marketing and supporting small businesses. And so we sort of took those skills and we set up 7 years ago as Queen Bee. And that kind of came out of the whole being in Manchester and the whole bee being, so integral to the Manchester industrialness of it and, hardworking and such like. So, so we set up and 7 years. It's just absolutely flown by. I honestly, don't know where it's gone, but it's been brilliant. And as you were saying on your last live with Kate, it's been really hard. I mean, I've never worked so hard in our lives. Neither of us have never worked so hard in our lives. But at the same time, I'm so lucky because I get to work with my best bud every day. And, even with COVID interrupting a bit of that. But yeah, we're just so I just feel so lucky, really. And it does, we'd always wanted to start a business. There was reasons for starting the business. Part of it was flexibility of being around for our families, but that wasn't the only reason we chose to set up. We wanted to run our own business. We wanted to build a brand that we just felt really passionate about, and that it wasn't just about having a bit of work on the side that we could do, and that's perfectly fine, but that's not what we sort of set out to do. We wanted to be owners of our own business, and that's why I think we've spent a lot of time trying to sort of market ourselves and build our own brands, really, because we love to do that for other clients as well. We love any kind of brand work with clients, and that's been part of our journey. And you can't do that when you work for somebody else. Even if you're in a marketing team, it's not your own. You don't feel that love for it that you do when it's your own little baby. So
yeah, totally. And I've spoke about that loads of times. I think you get to a point, and it's difficult in the beginning, and you've been there, and I know you've been there because we've had conversations about things that you do for clients that you think, oh yeah, we'll do that and it'll be dead easy and it won't take a lot of time, and we only have to mention eBay, and you just think, oh my God, yeah. You get into and we've all been there. And I would probably defy any VA that's been running for a long time that says they've not done something that they wish they never did, or they did it because it was just money that they knew they wanted to bring in. But I think after a while, you definitely get to a point, and I spoke about the two different camps, where you're either a business owner and you make a decision to be first and foremost a business owner, and you just happen to do what you do, or you make a decision to be a transactional VA and you just happen to have a business because you've got to be registered with ICO, or you've got to have a proper email address or a website, but really you just want to do the transactional stuff. And either one is completely perfect, but find your place and know where you want to be, what you want to do. And I think that's really important. So that must have been great for you both over the last couple of years to be able to talk things through like that and make decisions about where do we want to go. And because that can probably be, and I've experienced that, it can probably be a bit of a struggle to think, God, it's all down to me to make those decisions, and you're totally responsible for it. So that must be a really nice environment to be in, where you can share that.
Oh, definitely. I've always said I think I would honestly struggle being a solopreneur. I think there's a security in having somebody else there, but also you have different skill sets. So Jane and I think we went into the business thinking we would be both really similar in what we're going to bring to this business. But actually, you know, and even though we're really, really, you know, the best of friends and we are so similar in many ways, we have a very strong, very similar work ethic, which I think is really important. So we're both driving in the same direction. But Jane is really super creative, and you know, so she takes the lead on a lot of that kind of work, where it turns out I'm quite techie, so who knew? So I kind of sort of look after quite a bit more of the analytics side of things, or software and setting things up, and I love doing sort of creative writing. I think it comes back through the PR side of where I was, and so, you know, there's definitely some crossovers, but we kind of have our own strengths that we bring into the business. And like you say, when you're only working by yourself, it's difficult because there's only you, and you know, and you can learn new skills, but you can't be everything. So I feel like we've got that advantage of having lots of skills in the business. But you know, it's like things like this, isn't it? You find other ways of bringing those skills into your business. You talked about the transactional VAs and the business VAs, but you know, we work with some absolutely amazing associates who I would probably say are transactional VAs, and we couldn't survive without them, and they couldn't do without us, you know. So you need each other, you need both parts to be able to, for us to be able to build our business. We need those people who are not wanting to go out and necessarily find the business for themselves and do the networking. They're just looking to be, you know, to have that sort of business come to them, really. So it's perfect that way. It works well.
So you've got both. So you've both got to understand what skills you bring. Which one of you then? Tricky question. Who do you think is the most kind of structured, and make sure that? Because I know we've had kind of conversations about this again before, where one of you is probably a little bit more, not really structured, but needs to make sure that everything is perfect. And
it depends. Do you know what? It really does depend. Jane is a real perfectionist. I think we both are to a certain extent, but Jane is a real perfectionist over certain things. So, you know, the way something, if we're designing something in Canva or something like that, you know, or there's a bit of design work that we're outsourcing, she's got a real eye for detail, and I'll look at it and I'll think, oh, that looks great. And then she spots things that, you know, that I don't spot. But then I think then, you know, when it comes to working through processes and setting up systems, you know, she's not got the patience for that level of detail, and I like that kind of level of working through things in a process, you know. So
you'll massively complement each other on every single element, I think, then. And I think it's, and we try to do that at the conference as well. And as you know, you've been a number of times, but try to get people to try and buddy up with somebody that if you haven't got that skill set, or you've not got, or you really do want to sit and brainstorm with someone. And Pam Clark, we do that all the time. So we'll go and meet for lunch and we'll say, right, I don't know what to do with this, or I really need some help with something. So I think it's really important that you find somebody that you can, if you've not got like the two of you and you are just on your own, that you find someone that you can trust, that you can even collaborate with, and you can support each other on some work, but also you can brainstorm with, and you know that they're just there on the end of a phone or a WhatsApp or an email or whatever. It's really important to find that person.
It's so important. And even when there's two of us, we still have that. I mean, before the whole COVID thing, we set up locally the VA collective, where we had some sort of VAs within our kind of South Manchester area that got together. And I think more than any other industry I've worked in, it's the most supportive industry. And I know it's not exclusively female, but it's definitely dominantly female. And I think there's a lot of VAs that come from a similar place, that you know, and whether it's family related or they're looking to sort of start a business. So there's a lot of similarities, and it's just really really supportive. And I remember, like, going back years ago when we started coming to the VA conference, and you know, you start joining groups and meeting people, how that old networking thing that you used to do when you worked in more corporate sectors where it was competitive. It isn't that. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, we may have just been lucky, but I found it really, really supportive, and definitely, like you say, coming to the Northwest VA, because it fills you with joy, because everybody's just so lovely and supportive and wants to help, and they don't need anything back from it, and then you want to help them, so it goes both ways. And it's
I think also
community.
Totally. And I think also because a lot of us do work on our own, we're just proper giddy about being in a room full of people that all want the same thing, that have all got the same problems with clients. We've all got the same questions to ask. And that's why also the speakers that we bring in bring so much to it, that there's not really anything that you can go away with from a speaker, or there's not a speaker that goes away that you don't think, I've taken a couple of things from that. Because they're all really, and they've all been there in a small business. So they've all been there and experienced that, and they know what it's like. But, and I think they get stuff from us as well, because when they ask questions, or a VA will say, oh, well, I did this and I did that. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, okay. So I think both get, but we're all just, and especially this year, we're all just so excited to be in the same room as each other and actually have a proper conversation rather than over Zoom and, Teams. We just need to be in a room with each other and be having those conversations. So, so how has the last year, how has it been for you? How has it affected your business, if at all? Obviously, you're still here, you're still thriving, you're still growing the business, which is fantastic. But did it have any impact on you?
Yeah. I think it can't not have an impact, can it? Whether you end up thriving because business absolutely goes ballistic because it's suddenly you're dealing a lot with online stuff, or whether business drops off, it's been really challenging, I think, but I think more so, we were very lucky in some ways. We'd been, obviously the business had been fairly well established. We'd had long-term clients, so clients have been working with us for years, and the clients we tend to work with, most of them were able to carry on trading in some way, and the marketing we were doing, even a couple of them that stuck with us, bless them, throughout that period, even when they couldn't trade and they'd furloughed themselves, they still needed the marketing support. So they couldn't just shut down the business and not do their social media, or not put out e-newsletters, or not update their website and things like that. So so we were very lucky that 99% of our clients carried on, and the one that wasn't able to carry on is now back with us, which is fantastic. But what I think where it got frustrating for us is Jane and I think had just got to a point in the year leading up to COVID where we'd really started to invest in our business. And I think when you're really busy, which we are, and it's really hard to find the time to plan for your own business and to spend time in your business, that whole really awful saying of spending time in your business, not on your business, and that type of thing. So we'd got to a point where we'd sort of started investing, started structuring our week. So we were going to start spending time looking at where we wanted the business to go. And we had all these plans and we were getting really excited, and then kind of COVID hit, and it just literally floored that part of our business planning, I suppose. And we were lucky, and that again there was two of us. So over the summer months, I think Jane struggled particularly because her boys were much smaller and needed more help when it came to homeschooling than my son did. He was pretty autonomous and carried on with his online learning, but her boys needed a little bit more support. And so trying to balance queen bee work with homeschooling and everything else kind of was quite stressful, as it was for so many people. But again, we were lucky, and what we did is we alternated days, and we were able just to, and instead of growing the business and looking for these perfect clients that we wanted to attract into the business, we just pressed pause. We maintained the work we were doing with our existing clients, and we kind of took a bit of a day on day off session between us so we could have a bit of a break and not, go under. And that worked well. but we, what it just did is it just kind of stopped. We've just put ourselves back 12 months, really.
Yeah.
But then things have just gone crazy in the past few months. So, maybe karma's come back. And
I think so. I think, and people are just, I think the great thing was that businesses that could survive and that had maybe facility to survive did. And like you, just had to maybe put a pause on things, or just, hold back on a couple of things for a while. But there had to be an element of continuing to do something at least. So and those businesses now, and I did say, I think I said to another VA on a training session last year, or on a coaching session last year, that, as if we just continue to do things and do some little bit of CPD where we can, and continue at some level, we will still be here by the end of the year. And obviously didn't realise that it would go into this year, because who did anyway? Yeah. But I think we've definitely, for those of us that have managed to survive, it's a massive achievement that we need to look back on and think, God, we actually did do it. So definitely.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for anyone. It was hard work, trying to balance the business and the kids and obviously all the things that came with COVID. But like you say, hopefully we're through the worst of it now, and things are definitely picking back up for us as a business.
Good.
And it's really looking promising again. Jane and I are starting to work together again, which
is good.
Yeah, and it just makes such a difference, because this whole Zoom Teams world is fine, but you do not get the same level of connection as you do when you're working face to face, and it's why a lot of our clients, well, all of our current clients at the moment, are sort of Greater Manchester, Cheshire based, because we don't see ourselves as virtual, and there are plenty of VAs who will work all over the world with different people, and that's fine, but that's not what suits us. We like the face-to-face. We like, it's not all the time, but we think we get a lot out of meeting our clients face-to-face in terms of actual progress of work and ideas and the creative element, but also that relationship building and keeping our clients with us for longer periods of time. So it's nice we've started to get out and see clients again, which is really, really
fab.
Nice.
And obviously we can't wait to have you in the room at the conference. So as we know, you'll be following Kate on the Thursday afternoon, and the Thursday sessions, for those of you that have not been before, Thursday sessions are the longer sessions. So we have 2 big interactive sessions on the Thursday afternoon. And you will have, if you've not watched my interview with Kate, then definitely go back and have a look at that. Kate is a massive bundle of energy, and will walk around. And she always says, when she comes into the room and she starts talking, she always says, there'll be 2 things. I will move around a lot, and I will swear. So I have to just tell you that at the start, that I won't stand still. And she will be a bundle of energy, but I think she will really build up the room. Fantastic with what she's going to talk about, marketing and ideal clients and that kind of thing. And then that will obviously bring us brilliantly onto your session, something that I'm really interested in and definitely don't do enough of at all, ever, because I have too many questions and I will look for perfection way too much. And I need to stop doing that. And I just literally need to go out and do it, which is about stories, and is about being live and present with people there and then, and talking about that. It's not only about the transactional stuff that we do, that it's about, I know it needs to be about me as a person and what I bring and what value I bring, and my life and me and Joanne, not just a business owner. So I'm really, really looking forward to your session. So obviously we've got a bit of a brief on the website, but it would be great for just share a little bit about your experience with stories and how that's become quite an integral part of your marketing, I think. Really, because that's the first place I go to look, especially on Instagram. It's the first place to look, and I very rarely scroll down. Very, very rarely. And now I've started to look at, obviously, stories on, obviously they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, they're on LinkedIn, they're on everywhere else. So I think I can't wait to learn more about stories.
Well, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think we've all got a much shorter attention span these days.
Yeah.
So stories, not only is it obviously really fast paced because they only last a few seconds and they only are there for 24 hours, but you're there and they're fun. So they tend to be quite, like you say, of the moment. So what somebody's doing right now or what they're going to be doing that day, and they're sharing things that's happening. And we like that live element to it. So I think it's really common, like you say, we all do that now. We'll just flick through the stories and the grid almost becomes secondary to that. Whereas certainly at the beginning with things like Instagram, how your grid looked was all of, was all the talk. It was how you, but I think, yeah, definitely stories is now. And obviously, like you say, because all the other platforms are doing stories now. And so you can see obviously how popular it is. But yeah, it's really interesting you saying about the perfectionism of it as well, because I don't know, I think you have to be a certain person to like being on camera, don't you? And I hate it, and I don't know anybody that actually likes it, other than those people that tend to sort of stand up and do speaking for a living. But it's not about perfectionism, and I think the more perfect things are, the more off-putting it can be in some ways. There are certain kind of, there's techniques we'll talk about at the conference. So we'll sort of start about really looking at the basics about what are stories, and why you should be doing stories. What you need to be thinking about, and we'll look at some of the basic techniques of actually creating a story. Because there's going to be a lot of mixed abilities in the class, like you say, people who've never done them, people who are quite savvy with stories. So we'll go through all that, but I think it's going to be interesting, and we'll keep it interactive. So we'll do some live stories, and we'll get people in the session to do some stories. But feel confident that they know what they're doing, and so I think one of the things we were asking the delegates that are coming along as well is to perhaps ask some questions that they might want to know in advance, because I think we'll do like a little bit of a surgery section to the session. So we can answer questions that people have actually got, because like you say, you've got 101 questions, but if other people have got those questions as well, then they can put those forward, and we'll try and tackle some of those. And so we're actually dealing with real questions.
Fantastic. I'll put that out, and I will ask I will ask the attendees beforehand, because I'm sure, and there's always a point where no one wants to be the first one to put their hand up, do they? And
nobody wants to put the hand up. I think there will be, naturally, as we start doing stories and we're getting phones out, there'll be lots of people go, well, which button's this, and what's this, what's this, and that's fine, and we'll get some of that. But sometimes if you can have a little bit of a thinking advance about, because it's not just about doing stories, and I think there might be questions around, why stories, because like you say, different VAs, Jane and I operate in quite creative businesses, and so a lot of our very obviously a lot of our ideal clients are using Instagram, and they're on there. So us being on Instagram and using all the different features, stories, reels, guides, all those types of things, is showcasing bits of things that we can do, and it's putting ourselves in front of our ideal clients, which is why the session will run on so perfectly from what Kate's doing. And I think there'll be some VAs who will say, well, I only work with high level corporate, execs or something like that, and we'd never say to everyone you should be on all social media platforms, but we'll talk about why you might not want to rule out stories as a tool, as you were saying, to sort of showcase what you're doing, your services, how you can kind of integrate it into your marketing, the other bits of marketing that you're doing. So it's not just, I can only do Instagram stories if I've got clients on Instagram. There are Facebook stories and other stories that we can look at. And it's just thinking about that ideal client. Are they using that platform? And not just in a work capacity, but definitely remembering that just because we run a business, or we're a director of a business, or a CEO, or a finance, doesn't mean that we're not using social platforms.
And we've not got a personal life. Exactly. Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's reasons to be doing these things, and
Definitely.
it's just we'll try and get people to think a little bit beyond perhaps just that very lateral thinking of, well, my client won't be on that. Maybe they will. So we'll talk a little bit around that.
Definitely, I think so. And in the Be a Standout VA program that I did at the start of this year, there was an element of that when we were looking at ideal client, and it's really thinking outside the box a little bit, because we think, yes, my client is probably going to be on LinkedIn, only going to be on LinkedIn. So it's thinking about, well, where do we need to direct our sales energy to? Where are they more likely to buy? That client probably more likely to buy from seeing something on LinkedIn. That doesn't mean that when she's sat at home after the kids have gone to bed with a glass of wine, she's not scrolling through Facebook stories or through Instagram stories, and on a personal level would really like to get to understand, before she makes that decision and clicks that button on LinkedIn to buy, what that kind of person is, and do they resonate with them, and do they have is it a personality they think they would like to work with? So I totally agree that yes, there are places where people will go to buy, but there are places where people will socially and inadvertently be thinking about, in the back of their mind, oh, I like that person, they're really funny, I liked it when they did that, and I liked when they shared that story about falling down the stairs, or the dog running out in the road, or something like anything. But there's things that we maybe need to be sharing about ourselves. It's thinking of the bigger picture, and how do we get a connection with that person, and doing that very short, because we've all been on the computer way too long in the last 12 months. So we don't want to be reading loads of stuff, and we don't want to be listening to an hour video of something, but we want something really quick, which is probably why TikTok's taken off so massively, because we just want something instantaneous to make us smile and look at something. So it's the perfect opportunity for us to be able to put ourselves out there in a short, sharp way of connecting with somebody that might potentially want to work with us one day.
Yeah. And they're so simple to do. And if you're not somebody who likes to write content as well, often a lot of people will get stuck on, putting a post out, or a group post, or a Facebook post, think, oh, what do I write? And actually the benefit of stories is you can write very little. I'll say, so you don't have to have that kind of brilliant writing skills to be able to do stories. And they're so simple, and for those people who use them will hopefully be sharing a few things that they didn't know, and like you say, they'll come away with something, or be able to ask a question of us on the actual day. But for those that haven't really used stories, we'll make sure that we cover off some of the basics before leaping into anything too advanced.
It's going to be, I can't wait. Boris better not say anything else about June now, and not put anything back, because I think we just sod it, we just do it anyway. It can jog on.
We'll just take it into a field. It'll be fine.
You can just come into my garden. My garden's big enough. We'll just have it in my garden.
Ooh,
definitely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Kate can bring a gin, and happy days.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Oh, thanks so much for Helen for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I will be sharing this obviously across our mail network, and I'll share it into the other groups as well, so that everyone, all the attendees and everybody, can see it anyway. But we can't wait. I think is it 4 weeks? Is it 4 weeks on Thursday? Can't wait. Around. Very,
I
very.
just can't wait as well. I can't wait to see all the familiar faces, all those people we've seen over the years. Also, all these newbies that are coming on. Yeah. So many.
We've got quite a few newbies that have never been before, so that's really exciting.
It'll be great. They'll love it.
I know. Can't wait. Just before we go, I've got a couple of things, and I'll put it in the bottom of the on the post in the group as well. But a couple of things. I sent an email out really to people that had inquired about when the tickets were going to be re-released again. Because unfortunately, we've got 5 attendees that can't make it now due to childcare issues, or maybe not feeling comfortable enough to come back into the room yet, or really just can't make it. So I've got 5 tickets that I would love to reimburse them for, but also I'd love maybe 5 new people to come along. So I've got 5 tickets, 3 at the early bird rate, which was £80, and 2 at the reduced rate that we did for the Survive and Thrive event last year, which is £88. So I'll leave the comments, like I said, underneath this video. If anyone's interested and even following this video or the other videos thinks, yes, I want to come along, there's an opportunity to purchase some tickets at an early bird rate as well, and the reduced rate. Don't forget, Monday is the cut-off for applications for the Northwest VA of the Year Awards. So you need to get your entry in to Be My VA. So again, I'll put that in the comments. It's on all of my emails that I send out anyway, but Monday is the cut-off date, 31st of May. As we approach, I think we've got one more video with Jake Sweet next week. Unfortunately, Jake's working, so we're going to record an interview and then post that out next Tuesday. But after that, then we will start to release information about the event itself. So we'll start talking about timings, so you can be aware of what time you need to be there on the Thursday, in the morning on the Friday, and what time we'll be finishing. And as you might know, we always hold a lovely informal dinner on the Thursday evening, which I'd say 95% of people stay for, and some of the speakers I know are staying for that as well. It's always loads of fun. Naomi's going to be liaising with the venue this week, and she'll find out about menus and things, because we have to submit the menu because it's normally a large group, but we need to confirm, obviously, how are they going to do that with us being seated inside. Fingers crossed, because it's after the 21st of June, we'll be okay and there won't be a problem. And I can see Naomi nodding to the side of me, and I think they have confirmed that yes. Yeah.
In line with government guidance,
we're all
should
right.
Be fine after the 21st.
Okay, so Naomi will be in touch with all of the attendees to say this is the menu you need to order, and she'll give you a cut-off date for that. So that's it. Last video of the speakers next week with Jake Sweet. And that was we only had a little mini session, I don't know if you remember, with Jake last year, because we went on for so long. Everyone else we just ran the sessions over as usual, and Jake had to get off for a call. But all about influence and how to make a big impact with influence in the way that you talk, the language that you use, how to change perceptions of what we do with clients and prospects. So it'd be a really, really great session. And Jake's interview will be on the Facebook group next week at 12 o'clock. Thank you so much, Helen. We will let you get off and get some work done. I'm sure you're very busy, and have a fantastic week. Have a lovely week, everybody. Hopefully sunshine by the end of the week, so you can get out and be working in your gardens, hopefully. And I will be back with you next Tuesday. So have a fab week. Thank you, Helen. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.